Hello, hey, SDC Trojans. This is Dr. Smith. Just getting ready to go here. Going to answer some questions. So I'm just going to go ahead and, well, first of all, here's the reason we're here today. Is I just know there's some questions that pop up from time to time about how what school's looking like and for the fall and the summer and all kinds of questions that are popping up there. So I just want to create this opportunity to share with you some things here. I took down some notes and was going to just share as much as I can, and would love to have some questions for you as we're going here. So if you have any questions at all, and I'm going to go over a bunch of topics here, but I want this to be as back and forth as possible, so I can answer any questions you might have. I guess the one thing I want to say is I don't have all the answers. You've probably heard that from a lot of different people. In my mind, we're sitting here at Monday, June 22nd, and I've got the calendar here. We are supposed to start school tentatively on Monday, August 24th, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But we're about 2 months out right now from school starting. And, I've said this a few times, but with the way that news changes, the way that things have been going week to week, and even day to day, a lot can change in the next 2 months and 2 days. So leading into this conversation and hopefully answering some of your questions here, and I can see if you got questions, go ahead and feel free to type them in. A lot can change in 2 months. So what you're going to hear are just some things that we've talked about. But again, there's definitely we don't have answers to all this. So I just want to preface what I share with all of you with that to start out. So let me share, though, before I start answering some of your questions. And again, feel free to just type. I see we got about 40 viewers right now, which is outstanding. It keeps going up. So just if you got any questions that you want addressed that I don't get to, or that maybe I'll get to, but go ahead and type them into the comments and I'll do whatever I can. I'll stay here as long as I need to, just to make sure that you feel like your questions are being asked. So let me start off with, we had a Return to Learn committee that met a week ago today on June 15th. And I'm looking at the list of people who attended, and we had about 20 people. Great question, Heather. I'll definitely come back to there, okay? We had about 20 people who took part in our first Return to Learn meeting, which was on June 15th. And it was a really good meeting. We had all of our administrators, our directors, our TLC leadership, which is our instructional coaches. So we had a really good conversation, and we we really want to make sure that we're organized and that we're ready to go for August. So what we did was, and here, let me explain. The purpose of the group was to prepare our school district for when our staff and students return in August. And right now, this is basically what all the districts out there are doing, is they are really preparing for 3 options. One option is the best case scenario would be that we are back, normal, classes are normal. There'd be some safety precautions, but that school would look as close to normal as possible. That's option 1. That's best case scenario. In the middle, there's a lot of school districts are talking about like a hybrid option, which would be, a hybrid option. That could look a lot of different ways, but say that there's some social distancing that we have to follow, and we can only have 10 students in a classroom at a time. And again, I'm just making this up. This is just hypothetical. But what would that look like? And that's, how would we manage that? How would we have some students come in for part of the day, other students come in for a different part of the day? So when we talk about hybrid, I mean, that's kind of like, okay, we're still in person. We're still doing some face-to-face, but maybe the classroom doesn't look like it normally would. And maybe you only see certain students, maybe there's a unique schedule, or some students are at home for part of the day, I mean, it could look a lot of different, but when we say hybrid, we're saying, yeah, it just doesn't look like it used to, but our students are still in the building. So keep that in mind as a second possible option. And again, every school district is looking at this. And what I did was, with our committee, we looked at Iowa City schools, Cedar Rapids schools, Clinton schools, Ottumwa, Boone, Oskey. And everybody's in the same position we are in terms of looking at those three options, or those two, and then a third. The third option would be, what if we're at home full time to start? And so that would be kind of worst case scenario. Again, things are trending in a positive way. I hope we're at least in school for part of the time, or at least have our kids for part of the day. But again, that's the third worst case scenario. And again, for the user, we're up to 70 viewers here. This is outstanding. What I was telling the viewers was that right now, all districts across the state are preparing for three different options on this continuum. Face-to-face, 100%. Things are kind of back to normal with some safety precautions in place, of course. In the middle would be that hybrid option where maybe schedules are a little bit different, and I'm kind of making this face because that would be difficult, but we will make it work because we want the kids in school. And the last, kind of the worst case scenario would be, what do we do if kids are at home the whole time? And I know parents, you might want to close your ears. I talked to my sister yesterday, and she has 2 kids at home, and they want nothing more than their kids to be back in school because I think our parents are starting to realize it is a lot of work and very challenging, not only having kids at home, but also having kids at home and being expected to teach them. So again, those are the 3 options. And if you missed kind of my explanation on those 3 options, I'm going to upload this video, and you can have a chance to replay it and watch it over again. I'll probably text it out to all staff and students through a YouTube video. So again, if you missed any part of this, but if you missed that introduction, don't worry. Well, you can come back to it. So again, the purpose of this group, and what I start off with, was there's about 20 different people on this leadership team, this Return to Learn committee, and I really started off with describing to them that there's 3 different ways that all school districts are preparing for August, and it's that everybody's in class 100%, kind of back to normal, that hybrid, which is kind of a unique way of scheduling, and then on the far end, again, that we're all at home and we're doing some distance learning. So those were the 3 options. Again, it doesn't matter what school district you're in. Across the state of Iowa, those are the conversations that everybody's having. So what we did was we actually split our group into about 11 different areas where we have facilitators who are going to be addressing each of the 11 main areas that we know we need to address throughout the district. And so here's those areas. And again, I'll explain in a minute here, but the areas are technology, curriculum and instruction, food service, virtual learning, activities and athletics, special ed and ELL, health and safety, transportation, facilities, summer school, and then we actually added a brand new topic today, which is going to be addressing like the cultural, it's kind of separate. I'll come back to it in a minute, but addressing like the cultural, I guess, issues that are going on in society right now. We want to have a group that addresses, that actually is like talking about some of those things and what can we do. We just feel like it's good to have a plan with that coming back to make sure that we're all just on the same page and we're clearly communicating with our staff and with the community what we're doing on that. I'll come back to that in a minute. But those areas I listed off, we want to make sure that we are thinking 2 months out. Like I said, if you missed it earlier, we're about 2 months and 2 days out from perhaps the first day of school, and I'll explain that here in a second. For all those areas we talked about, what do we need to think about? And so each of the people who are in charge of each of those areas, technology, curriculum, food service, and so forth, we need them thinking about, okay, each of those scenarios. Kids are back, we're back kind of half time, and then we're not back at all. What's that going to look like, and how does that impact my program? So I feel really good. Each of those areas has a facilitator, and each of those facilitators has other staff members who are part of a brainstorming group about really thinking through what that could look like. And then what we're going to have is one huge master document that talks about all of those different steps that we're going to take, those action steps, and who's responsible and what the timeline is. So I guess my biggest thing for all of you who are listening is we do have a committee, a group, a large group that is committed to answering these questions and sharing those questions out before our students return. So we do have, again, that's the Return to Learn committee. You've probably heard Return to Learn. There is a document we got to turn into the state here for next week, and I'm working on that currently. And but that group that we have is actually, we're going to have a full day of meetings this Wednesday, where we're having conversations about what it's going to look like in all those areas for when we return. Let's talk about technology for a second. Here's what we're going to purchase. I'm excited about the purchases here, and these are all estimates. I'm not going to lie, these things could change. But right now we're looking at purchasing 400 new iPads, 720 new keyboards. So when you get an iPad, sometimes I've always just had an iPad without a keyboard, but we know it's important that kids get typing skills. So we're actually purchasing 720 new keyboards for our students so they can practice, so they can actually type like I'm here at my laptop, so they can actually learn the typing skills, because that's hugely important. So our high school students do currently have those keyboards, but we want to make sure our lower grades have those as well. We are also going to be purchasing hotspots for the families who don't have internet at home. And there's a lot of work that's going to be done to figure out what families need it and which don't. However, we got really good news. We did a kind of an informal survey of our students, and we believe that approximately 80% of our families have in-home internet, which was a lot better than we were expecting. We thought we were closer to about 50 to 60%, but the feedback we received was about 80% of our families have in-home internet where they can connect a laptop or an iPad to the internet. So now we know that, like I mentioned, that was kind of an unscientific, informal survey that our staff completed. We're going to be making sure those numbers are accurate. And again, earlier I mentioned each group has a facilitator. Mary Mixdorf, who is our director of technology, she will actually be leading that group and determining what families need internet. And that includes some of our staff as well. There's a few staff who either live out in the country or live in spots where it's hard to get internet. We know internet is going to be key. If we're going to be prepared for next August, we've got to make sure we've got devices in people's hands, we've got internet, we've got, like I mentioned, we're going to purchase some of those hotspots for our families. So again, we know internet and technology is a huge barrier, and we are going to do everything we can. How are we going to do that? Well, I mentioned this before, but it doesn't hurt sharing again, that we did receive $300,000 from the CARES Act through the state of Iowa. So much of that $300,000 that we're getting is going to be going towards technology. We also have received two large donations. One was from Iowa Premium for $30,000. A second was from the Mansfield Foundation for $20,000. So the way we look at it right now to address those technology needs is we have about $350,000, which were part of grants or donations that we were given that will help address those needs. Um, so again, technology, we know that's something we need to address. We're addressing it. I said it the last couple different videos here, but I do feel good. Like we're making the purchases necessary to ensure that our students to ensure that our students have the technology that they need at home. And again, we're going to try to address all the needs of our students. So if you're a parent that's at home watching, or you know somebody who might not have internet access, we're going to do whatever we can to make sure we're meeting those needs. Another thing that we're doing, I mentioned, was health. So health is, we've got our nurses that have been great for us, and our nurses' names are Jessica Wilkerson, Lynette Benda, and Ellen Waterbury. And Ellen Waterbury is actually, she's the facilitator of that group, and they're going to be looking at what we need to purchase to make sure that we're ready to go in terms of our health and safety equipment. So, things that we've purchased already that we've got on hand are, and again, for those of you who missed us, I know people are kind of jumping in, going off, jumping back in. We don't know exactly what August is going to look like. Anybody who says they do would probably be lying. But we have purchased some masks for our buildings, thermometers, and one thing that I'm really excited about is we've got hand sanitizers that dispensers that have been installed in every classroom throughout our district. Again, we've been taking some steps. I mentioned we're 2 months out. It's still kind of early in the game, but we have tasked our nurses they've been tasked to make sure that we are adequately prepared and well stocked with all the health necessities needed for August. They've made some purchases, but we basically have told them this, and they've heard me say this. I wanted you to hear this. Safety is our number one thing that we're trying to address. So in my mind, they do not need to worry about a budget with these items. There's nothing that if our nurses and our healthcare professionals say we need items, we will make those purchases. Those are the most important things and we feel like we have the money allocated and we've got the money built into our budget. We are going to purchase those items. So again, I think a key takeaway, and we've got 60 of you watching right now, is that we will have, if the CDC or the Tama County Health says all students need to have masks, we will ensure that all students have masks. Okay, we did the numbers. It's really high. I forget how many is. I think they said, was it 7,000 masks? Let's see. Well, that'd be a week, right? We need about 7,000 masks a week times 4 weeks. We need about 30,000 masks a month to make it through, and that's assuming one kid needs one mask. It's a lot of masks, let's be honest. But we will ensure you that we've got those things on hand for our students. So again, I don't want any parents to worry that their students will not have the supplies needed to be safe in our schools. As you're thinking about masks, I saw some funny things on Facebook or on Twitter saying how difficult that could be, especially think about kindergartners wearing masks all day. They already have a tough enough time learning, being patient, sitting in their desk. They're super cute, and it's just they've got so much energy. We know there's going to be there's going to be a lot of things to think about with masks. And again, that's if we're asked to do that, we will see what August brings in terms of masks. But again, your biggest takeaway should be, if there's things that we feel like our students need, we will commit the money and the resources to making sure that our students and our staff have those. I'm going to keep going here. And again, keep your questions coming. I know a question came up about graduation. Let's talk about graduation for a minute. I was at lunch yesterday for Father's Day, and my dad asked me, when's graduation? I said, oh, it's in a while. It's June 28th. He's like, oh, that's next Sunday. I'm like, oh my gosh, this month is flying by. You're right. It is next Sunday, the 28th. So graduation will be next Sunday, June 28th at 2 p.m. at the Trojan Field. I know there's a graduation committee that has communicated a lot of this stuff, so hopefully this is not the first time you've heard these things. But I had a question come up. I believe it was, what if it rains? Okay, so here's what's going to happen. If it rains next Sunday, and I have not looked at the forecast, and I am very nervous that it's nice out right now, but it was very rainy earlier today. I'm nervous that it's going to rain. We do have a rain date set up for Monday, June 29th, the following day at 7 p.m. So let's say on Sunday, June 28th, it's raining and we decide to call it. We'll move it to the next night to June 29th at 7 p.m. If it doesn't happen that night, my understanding is that we're not going to be able to do it. I think the odds of having two different times are pretty good. We'll be able to fit one of those in. But at my understanding, I know the question came up, if it rains, we've got the rain date, and then I'm looking through the notes. I do believe it says that we would have to cancel if we cannot make it work on Monday the 29th. But we're gonna have a positive and optimistic view of graduation, and we're going to feel like it's going to work one of those times. So again, graduation next Sunday, June 28th, 2 p.m. Seniors, we need to have you at Trojan Field by 1:15 p.m. So if you have a senior student, or if you're a senior who's watching, please be at the Trojan Field at 1:15 p.m. Rehearsal. There is rehearsal. I kind of forgot about this too. I'm glad I wrote this down here because it is Friday. This Friday, June 26th at 10 a.m. So seniors and any staff members who are involved with graduation, please make sure you are at rehearsal this Friday, June 26th at 10 a.m. So that's what's going on with graduation. I've got some exciting news about after prom. So let's go to that real quick. And again, please, if you got questions, usually no questions is good questions, or no. If I'm not getting questions, that means I'm answering a lot of the questions. But if you got them, let me know. What about face shields? I'm not exactly sure if you're maybe referring to when students come back next year. Is that the question, Mary? If you want to give me a little bit clarification. If you're talking about face shields for when students come back next year, I'll be honest, I personally have not been a part of that conversation about actually having face shields. But that's a great question, and honestly, I'll check, Mary, if that's referring to do students or staff want to wear face shields next year. I'm going to check on that. That hasn't came up in our conversations, and I will check with our nurses to see. And if we got a nurse watching, maybe they can respond in the comments there. But I personally have not had any conversations about face shields. I'm going to go ahead. Post-prom, I hope Stephanie Babinet does not mind that I read this, but I just got outstanding news about prom. And so it's such a bummer that prom could not happen like it was supposed to. So sad. It was supposed to happen over the weekend, and I feel terrible for the high school students who missed that. But I did find out that I hope I'm not stealing any thunder from the post-prom committee, but every senior is going to be given $50 cash and a gift certificate to a business in town. So every senior, regardless, every senior is going to get $50 cash from the post-prom committee, along with a gift certificate to a business in town. And then every junior is going to get $25 cash, and then they'll get to pick from some prizes, and they're kind of working to get when that pickup would be, but I believe it might be next Tuesday, it sounds like. So again, post-prom, I'm just bummed that we couldn't have that for you. I feel terrible because everybody loves to remember their high school, especially their senior year prom, but I do know the post-prom committee is really working well to get out that cash. Every senior is going to get $50 cash. I do not know who would not be happy about that, and they're going to get gift certificate to a business in town. So great news in terms of prom. And then every junior will get $25 cash and then pick from some prizes. So hey, juniors and seniors, just be listening. You'll be contacted here soon by the post-prom committee about some of those things. I do know, Raylyn, you had a question about selected teachers hand us our diploma. Let me see if I can find that really quick. I do not know. If somebody out there knows and they want to respond, they can. If they know about the question, Raylan had a question about still able to have our selected teachers hand us our diploma. I remember thinking that was not going to happen. However, I do believe that they're trying to do something special for you. I don't want to steal, and maybe they already have. And again, if somebody else from the graduation committee wants to answer that for me, that would be great. I remember an email coming across saying that we would not be able to do that. I could be wrong, but if somebody else out there knows and they could respond, that would be outstanding. I'm going to keep going here to lunches. Okay, so hopefully you heard this. And again, I want anybody out there, I want anybody out there to feel like they can take advantage of our lunches. So we got great news. We're going to continue the lunches that we have at the elementary school, middle school, and partnership center. Hold on one second. Thank you, Julie and Rochelle. So teachers are not handing out diplomas due to social distancing. I thought that was the answer. I just want to make sure. I would have felt bad if I spoke incorrectly and they were doing it. So, Raylan, I hope. Yep, and Dan said that too. So I'm sorry, Raylan. Yep, I'm sorry it's not going to be able to happen because that is honestly one of the coolest things that we do here at STC. Huge credit goes to the people who came up with that idea about handing those diplomas out, because that is such a cool moment. I saw so many tears last year having a chance to sit on stage and see how cool, how touching of a moment that is. So unfortunately, we can't do it this year. However, moving forward, I definitely want to make sure that we do that. So again, back to lunches. We are still handing out lunches, the SAC lunches, through August 19th. So every Monday, Wednesday, if you need lunches, and it doesn't matter, even if you're not free lunches or reduced lunches, if you want lunches for that week, or please come and pick up your lunches any Monday or Wednesday at any 3 of the locations: middle school, elementary, partnership center. Again, and we want to make sure these lunches go to good use. We get reimbursed for these, meaning they do not cost us anything. Please come and get lunches if you need them. You do not need to be, you do not need to have the free lunches or the reduced lunch rate. Just come and get lunches for your kids, and we'll make sure we have those for you. So again, Monday, Wednesday, those 3 locations from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be somebody there to hand out those lunches. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, Brittany West, I believe there's something else in place. Yep, I do think there's something else in place. Again, I think there's been some talks behind the scenes about still making sure that there was some communication that was special from the teacher to the student or vice versa. But again, we unfortunately can't do the special handout like we were planning on. Let's talk about next school year for a second. So I've got next school year's calendar up in front of me, okay? So hopefully, and this is accessible at the district website. So if you're at your laptop, or you can probably pull it up from your phone either, but if you go to the district website, and there's a tab called Calendars, and if you go to the 2021 school calendar, I just want to talk about that for a second. So right now, we are tentatively scheduled to come back with students on Monday, August 24th. Now, here's what we've been talking about, is we do have 4 days of teacher in-service and professional development. We are toying with the idea, or tossing around the idea, of could we have students come back a couple days earlier? I don't know if it's 2, 3, 1, 4. Should we maybe give up a little bit of that time before school starts and allow students to come back a few days earlier to kind of just to make up some of the lost learning? Here's what I would, anything that we do and to me that's a big change and a big idea, is what we're going to do is definitely feel out our community and our teaching staff. Here's some pros about coming back a few days earlier. Pros Pro meaning like, here's the good things. The good thing is that kids would get more learning. There would be more instructional time, and just we missed a lot of learning. So we could have kids just be in front of class, in front of teachers more, and get more instruction that they missed. Okay, and we don't have to. Those PD days are nice. I love having them, but we know the most important thing is that we are giving instruction to kids. So that's like the positive. The negative is our staff and students, or no, our staff will be back that week, but will students be gone? Are some students planning on being out of town during the week of August 17th? That's a question. There's also PD. PD is, and when I say PD, a lot of that, the first 3 or 4 days is teachers getting ready for their students to come back. So we have to be careful that we are not stressing out and really making it uneasy for our teaching staff. If you have any if you have any comments on what I'm talking, so I went through it really quick, but we're debating on, do we come back a few days earlier? It won't be much, but maybe add 2-3 extra days, and give up some of the PD time that we had with teaching staff. So if you have any comments, hey, leave them below. I'd love to hear what you think. If you think that's a good idea or not a good idea, I'm going to go way beyond just this right now. I mean, what we're planning on doing is I'd love to poll our staff to see what their thoughts are. Because some of them would say gladly, like, we don't need that time. Like, I want students back the week of the 19th, 20th, 21st. Some people might say, you know what, I need that time in my room to get ready, and I'm just not going to be ready until the 24th. So, again, this will be something that we'll poll our staff and make our decision, and our community, and make our decisions based off of that. But we are looking at some creative ways to use the week of August 17th to possibly help try to catch up our students. Even a few extra days will help try to catch them up. But is it taking away too much of what we need to do leading up to students coming back on the 24th? So again, if you have, okay, Chad, have you discussed coming back any sooner? Yep. My throat's itching here. Sorry, Chad. So I was just talking about that, that we're looking, if we come back earlier, our teachers are back on contract on Tuesday, August 18th. Could we have our kids come back on the 18th, 19th, 20th, somewhere, I'm not saying the 18th, but maybe the 19th, 20th, 21st? Could they come back earlier, and could we give up some of that PD time? That'll be the question, and that's what I want to ask our staff. So we're not looking at coming back a whole lot earlier than that, but we do know our teachers are back on contract on August 18th. That is potentially, starting then, is some time that we could have the kids come back early. Okay, so another thing we're looking at doing is we do have a summer school committee, and that is led by Mr. Schweppe, our elementary principal. They're going to be looking at what can we do in August to get some of our kids caught back up. Again, there are some things that we don't know right now. Like, we do actually have some summer school going on right now for a very small number of high school students. But it's all remote learning. We're looking at, in August, how can we do a summer school for the kids who really need it? And, of course, every kid needs it, but who are some of our at-risk students, or students who are at risk of falling behind? And how can we give them assistance in August to get caught up through summer school? So you've got my word that, again, Brad Schweppe, our elementary principal, along with Ben Adams, who's our middle school principal, are going to be looking at some options for August. How could we offer summer school options? Is it something where we could bring the students in? How many students can we bring in? Are they going to be at home? So again, there's lots to think about there in terms of summer school. But I want you to know, I think here's the biggest takeaway you need to have from this last 5 minutes. We are looking at perhaps bringing kids back, perhaps during the week of the 17th. We would cut into PD time. of our teaching staff, but that's only if our teaching staff says, that's something they want to do. We got to be really careful. How much are we really going to earn back if we come back 2 days earlier? Is that really going to make a huge difference with learning, or are we just going to leave our teachers that much more stressed out by coming back and not giving them time to prepare? So Chad, it looks like I answered your question. I agree. Yep. We will let you know. We're not going to drag this out my goal, I think I said by August 1st, which again, that might be a little too quick or a little too late, but in my mind, by August 1st, we will know for sure what that schedule looks like. So I want you to know that we will have you for sure, Chad. I hope that's okay for your schedule. For sure by August 1st, we will know, are we coming back on the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st? We're not quite sure, but we want to get some data and some feedback before we do that. Keep your questions coming. We got 70 viewers, which is outstanding. I can go as long as you need me to. I'm looking through my notes here to make sure I've got everything covered. Let's see. Any questions? Feel free to throw them out there for me. Talked about lunches, talked about graduation. Oh, completely random. But let's do a little fun thing. So we had a huge, overwhelming response to Hertz Donuts back in April. We are bringing back Hertz Donuts this Friday night from 5 to 6 o'clock. I'm still waiting on them to give me something I can put up on Facebook. But Hertz Donuts, you heard it here first, guys. Breaking news. Friday the 26th, I saw a thumbs up there. I hope that was for the Hertz Donuts. I actually had some Hertz Donuts over the weekend. Amazing. I had one of the, it was the Cinnamon Toast Crunch one. It was unreal. It was really good. But this Friday, Hertz Donuts will be back again. If you want to make sure that we'll get some orders out there for you, be paying attention to Facebook, but Hertz Donuts will be over in that parking lot over at the high school Friday night from 5 to 6 p.m. 5 to 6 p.m. Hertz Donuts. So Danielle, okay, you'll be having most of those early days. Okay. Yeah, August 1st, yeah, we can go earlier than that. I don't think it's going to take very long for me to get feedback. And if I want our families to be able to plan vacations. It's just so bad that so many people have had vacations planned and they haven't been able to go. So I want to give them as much time as possible. So I appreciate that feedback, Danielle. Maybe it's mid-July. That would give us about 3 weeks from now to figure out when we can expect to have students start. I will say, for all families, there's no way that we are going to start all students before August 18th. There's no way. So, if you're asking me right now, if you're trying to plan vacation, if I were you, I would probably stay away from the week of August 17th through the 21st, just in case. I know that that's what I would suggest. I don't know which way we're going to go on this. But if I were you and I was trying to put together vacation plans, I would probably go away from the week of 17th. I'm not saying that's the direction we're going. I'm just saying if you're trying to figure out which weeks of August to be gone, the 17th through 21st is still very much on the table. And of course, if people have things they have to go to, we're going to work with you and excuse it. But if you're asking me right now, and that's a great question, you want to figure out your schedules for the month of August, I would probably just be real careful about the week of the 17th through the 21st. But that being said, I don't think there's any way possible we will come back before that week. So keep that in mind. But if your kids do go to summer school, keep that in mind. And again, that's probably maybe the students who need a little bit more help getting caught back up.
And you don't have to go, it's optional, but we hope to offer some summer school things in August. Okay, do we as staff need any special training to protect ourselves or our kids? So you might have missed, so that's a great question. At the very beginning, I talked about, I'm going to try to hold this up to the screen here. We have all of those different committees that are meeting, that have already started meeting, and they will meet again this Wednesday. And Rochelle, your question about special training to protect ourselves and the kids, we do have that health and safety committee headed by Ellen, Jessica, and Lynette, our 3 nurses, who are going to be thinking through all of those things. So I will make sure, we're not only doing that, we're also doing our technology. We've got John Hubner, who is going to be in charge of our virtual learning PD. So I'm going off a little bit, but yes, I want all staff are going to come back very much understanding, because that would be a huge question for me as a classroom teacher. If we are expected to do all these safety things in our classroom, making sure that we are crystal clear on what needs to be done in our classrooms to meet the health and safety needs of our students. So Rochelle, yes, absolutely. And I'll make sure that Ellen, Jessica, and Lynette get your question to make sure that we are training our staff. What about children who can't wear masks due to health risk of the children? Okay, so great question. And again, I should have started off by saying I'm not a health expert, and that is such a great question. I'm sure the decision makers at the state level are getting those same questions about masks, but I'm going to pass that question along to, again, our health and safety committee, so they can think about, if students can't wear masks, what do we do? Who can't wear masks due to health risks? Yep. Or who won't be productive wearing one. I've seen some funny things on Facebook about how that's going to look for elementary kids, especially who have to wear a mask, how difficult that could be. Oh my gosh. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm trying not to worry about that until we hear final decision on masks, no masks, what that's going to look like. That could be difficult. I'm not going to lie, Becky. That's a great question. But I'm going to make sure that our health and safety committee... Oh, Jared, when you hold up the paper, the writing is backwards. Oh, jeez. I feel stupid. So I guess you couldn't see what I had written with all those committees, but I read them off earlier. Let me read them one more time if you just hopped on. We've got these different committees who are currently, they've got a facilitator, and they are working together as a group to make sure that they're addressing all of the questions and all the needs we have prior to returning. Technology is run by Mary Mixdorf. Curriculum and instruction is run by Shauna Smith. Food program is run by our new food service director, Michelle Kalani. I always say that wrong. Sorry, Michelle. Virtual learning PD is going to be headed up by John Hubner. Activities and athletics, what that looks like when we return, is going to be headed up by Scott Bolin. Special ed and ELL will be headed up by Chris Collins. Health and safety will be headed by Ellen Waterbury. Transportation will be headed up by our transportation director, Steve Chima. Facilities will be headed by Steve McAdoo. And summer school will be headed by Brad Schweppe. What I mentioned earlier was we are also going to have another small committee that talks about cultural sensitivity. And I'm excited. This just kind of came about over the weekend. We want to make sure, what's going on in society is very tricky for us to navigate as schools. And we want to make sure, what I'm here for is the kids and the students and our staff, first and foremost. But we want to make sure all students and staff feel comfortable in our buildings and in our district. And as you know, we have a very diverse culture and staff here. I should say very diverse school population. I absolutely want to make sure everybody feels very comfortable So we are forming a committee that will talk about what steps we can take to ensure that our students and our staff members are doing everything that we can to be sensitive to the culture, to the backgrounds of our students and our community. So I want you to, a big takeaway from you for you from this conversation would be that we do have a committee that's being formed, made up of staff members, who are going to talk about what can we do to just address any of the issues that may be going on in our schools with our students, whatever it might be. So that is a part of our Return to Learn plan. I haven't really seen any other Return to Learn plan. I haven't seen that many plans, but I haven't seen that many districts who have included that in their plan to have that dialogue as a part of their Return to Learn plan. So I'm excited to have that as a part of the conversation as well. Let me go back and read some of these. Colleges are stopping fall semester at Thanksgiving and not returning till January 21st. Any thoughts on doing the same? I will say this, great question. Jennifer, we are actually going to be voting at the next, and I would hold this up, but it's going to probably be backwards. So hopefully you had a chance to check out the school calendar. We are looking at actually voting to approve extending this winter break. Right now, winter break is supposed to start on December 23rd. We're going to vote to move it up to December 18th. So having essentially 5 more days of students away from school. What that will result in is that we will actually, if you're looking at the schedule along with me, you probably aren't, but that means our students will be in school until May 28th. And that's assuming if we do that switch and we take out 2 days, we leave after Friday the 18th for winter break and we don't come back until January 5th. Students were supposed to be done with school on May 26th. They will actually be done on May 28th, but it would still be before Memorial Day, which is great news. And that doesn't, there's snow days and who knows what's going to happen next year. But Jennifer, your question, are we going to extend break for a lot longer? I don't think right now we have not talked about Thanksgiving through the 4th, but we're gonna vote to extend winter break to make it 5 extra days. Really, it's only 2 student days, but it's gonna be because we'll have an extra long weekend. It'll be 5 extra days of winter break. So great question. Nikki Johansson, is there any discussions on if the incoming 5th and 8th graders will be able to visit their new buildings before the first day? So I know I got that question last time. We do the back to school night, which I think some people would say that's good enough. Some people want to do more. I will have to defer to the building principals on that to see if they want to do anything extra. I always, as a building principal, I think our building principals would say the same thing. If there is any individual student or family who wants to come and tour a building before school starting, we are going to honor that. We want to make sure that every student, and again, I'm pointing over to the high school over there, we want to make sure that every student enters the high school very confident about where they're going, where the rooms are at, how to get from place to place. That should be the least of their worries about where their rooms are located. So any chance we can take away the little anxieties from our students, the better. So Nikki, I don't know if I have an answer in terms of if you're looking for a transition day. I don't know. I've done that in previous districts. I don't know if that is in the works right now. I can pass that question along to our middle school and high school principals. But with that being said, if you want to set up a tour, our principals know they need to make sure that they honor that and make sure they can give individual students and families tours of the building. So, but I will pass along that question. I completely agree, Shauna. If students have vacation plans, we always are willing to honor that. If you have something that's going on the week of the 17th through the 21st, by all means do it.
If you don't have something planned and you have options between the different weeks in August, my recommendation to you would be to avoid the week of the 18th. If you can't, that's okay. It'll be okay. We're very understanding. Like, family stuff is very important. Obviously, we want you in school, but if you've got stuff that you feel is important, then we will make sure that we honor that. So again, thanks, Shauna, for clarifying, and thanks for your questions. Sarah Novotny, I'm sorry I missed graduation portion. What is the plan for the additional family member bring their own chair option? Where are the additional people to sit? Great question. I'm going to pull up my notes from graduation. Let me see if I can find it. Each graduate will be provided with 4 tickets for reserved seating at the center of the football field. Families with more than 4 attendees have the option of watching on Facebook Live, or they may bring their own seating and sit outside the reserved seating area on the field, in the visitor stands, or on the visitor side hill. So I hope that answered your question. Let me go back and read it again. Have the option of watching Facebook Live, stream the event, bring their own seating to sit outside the reserved seating area on the field, in the visitor stands, or on the visitor side hill. So I'm guessing in the visitor stands means on the opposite side, so they could sit there, but you were asking about a chair. So it sounds like outside on the field, outside the reserved seating area field would be my guess. Okay, thanks, Dan. The district guidance team has proposed shadow days before school starts. Shauna was visiting with the admin team. Okay, perfect. Yep. I think again, that to me is something, if we feel like we need to put our kids have not been, March, April, May, June, July, 5 months. 5 months is a long time to be away from school. Transitioning to different buildings is scary as it is. Throw in that you're gone for 5 months instead of 2.5 or 3. I totally could see why some students would be very uneasy and some parents would be really pushing for some sort of shadow day or visits or transition day. So we're on top of it. So hey, I'm glad we're answering that question. Great question there, Nikki. We will get information out to you about doing that transition. So social distancing not necessarily happening. Sorry, afterthought. So in terms of, Sarah, you might need to give me a little bit more context there. Are you talking about graduation or at school next year? If you have any other questions, feel free. We've been going for about an hour here, which is awesome. I hope I've covered a lot of the things that I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yep, if you have any other questions, feel free to throw them up there. If not, then it means we're kind of answering your question. Again, if you came in late, what I'm going to do when we're done is I will upload this to Facebook, and then I will actually upload it as a YouTube video. Well, gosh, I don't know if I'll be able to do an hour-long video or not. They have some download restrictions, but either way, I'll see what I can do for you. Yes, and the bleachers at graduation. Okay, so I still think, everything I've read is they're still trying to we're still trying to do the social distancing in the bleachers. So I'm sure, you talked about, I'm guessing your question is about the visitor section, for sitting in the visitor section at graduation. My guess is that we're hoping that, those who come, the additional visitors, do use social distancing guidelines. Sitting, and it's a pretty big spot over there. We can fit, I would feel confident with 6 feet apart, we could still fit 100 to 200 people over there. Plus you've got the hill, and then you've got the areas outside of the outside the reserved seating. So I feel good, Sarah. I guess, again, I've just got the notes here in front of me. There is a graduation committee who I am sure they're thinking about all these different things. If there's questions, I'll read it again because some of you came in late for graduation. Graduation is going to be held next Sunday, the 28th at Trojan Field at 2 p.m. The rain date is Monday, the 29th at 7 p.m. So if it gets rained out, I have not looked at the forecast. We're probably still a little too far out for it to be um, for us to trust it. But it looks like if it does rain on the 28th, our rain date is the 29th at 7 p.m. If it rains both occasions, I hope it doesn't happen. Um, but if both are rained out, then we're going to have to cancel the graduation. But we're hoping, I mean, the odds of that are pretty slim. Students will need to be at the high school Trojan Field by about 1:15 p.m. on the 28th. If it gets moved to the 29th at 7 p.m., I would say probably be there at 6:15. Don't forget, seniors, rehearsal will be held Friday, June 26th at 10 a.m. So this Friday, it's sneaking up on us. I tell you what, the 26th, 10 a.m. rehearsal. So Sarah, going back to your question, if there's any other questions, we will all be there on Friday the 26th. I would encourage any parents to swing on by. We can help answer your questions or figure out who can sit where. Because I do know some of you have, grandparents who might not move around as well, who you're kind of wondering, okay, where do they need to go? So I totally get why you might want to know where people need to sit. So again, if you have any questions, I would say swing on over Friday morning, 10 a.m. on Friday, June 26th. Danielle, did you cover technology backup plans if in-person learning becomes impossible? So yeah, I did talk about that. I can kind of cover that again. So we talked at the very beginning, we talked about there's 3 options that every district is looking at. One is 100% in person, in front of the teacher, kind of back to normal. That's probably best case scenario. In the middle is kind of everybody's calling it a hybrid plan. So in my mind, hybrid is, what if we really are strict on the social distancing and kids have to be 6 feet apart? We cannot fit 25 kids inside a middle school classroom. So how do we figure out what a hybrid schedule might look like? And that there's a lot of logistics to figure out with that, but that would be the middle, we have the best case scenario. That'd be the middle of the road that kids are in for a period of time, but there might be some outside component, or they might only be there for part of the day. The other would be this 100% at home, where virtual learning is happening at home. So the question, I think, so backup plans. So what we're doing, what I talked about earlier, was that we are purchasing, 400 new iPads, 720 new keyboards that go with the iPads, and then hotspots for families. We did a poll, kind of an informal poll of all of our families, and our data shows us that 80% of our families have in-home internet, which means that we need to make sure we are assisting about 20% of our families with some sort of hotspot, or something that will help them so they can get internet at home. So we're going to ensure that every student of ours has a device, and we're going to, and again, sure is a strong word, but that's our goal, ensure that every kid has a device, and our goal is to ensure that every family has access to internet at home. So I don't know if that, okay, so, and along with that, so we've got that committee which is led by Mary Mixdorf, which is our Return to Learn committee. We've also got a Return to Learn committee working on virtual learning and PD, of training our staff how to teach at a high level using technology. So that is definitely on our radar. We don't have all the answers right now on that, but we do know that we need to make the purchases. We've got the money. We know we have a pretty good idea of who needs internet access. We just need to work on getting it to them, and that's our goal for these next 2 months. So Danielle, let me know if that helped out answer your question. If not, I can keep trying to go there. How do you guys plan on meeting the resources required by at-risk kids? Different models in mind: hybrid, normal schedules, adjusted schedules. Saying masks are not important is one thought. Are students and staff going to be required to wear masks? So thanks for the question. We covered that earlier in the show as well, that we have, 3,000 masks that have already been purchased. But there's so much. What I mentioned, I started off with this, which we are 2 months and 2 days out from starting school up again. So 2 months and 2 days, and it's about 60 days out. And I mentioned at the very beginning, like, so much is changing day by day or week by week. I don't know in terms of, the question is, are students and staff going to be required to wear masks? That is such a good question. We did the math. We know how many masks we need to get through. I think to get through a week, was it 7,000? We needed 7,000 masks to get through 1 week. To get through 1 month, we guessed we needed to be around 30,000 masks. You multiply 30,000 times 9 months. So that's assuming everybody only needs one, but that's close to 300,000 masks for the year, which is crazy. So that is a lot to ask of for us to pull that off. And again, that would be throughout the whole year. And that, I just can't see that happening. But right now, we just don't know about masks. We have some ordered, and our nurses, part of that safety committee I talked about earlier, they're going to be like weekly seeing what the recommendations are and determining what it is that we need in our buildings to protect our students and our staff. Right now, our nurses are telling us to hold off on purchasing tens of thousands of masks because we just don't know. So I'm going off of their recommendation. We just had a meeting last Monday, and I said, do we need to order more masks? And they said, right now, we are holding off. And they are on the front lines in the trenches. They know what other school districts are doing. So they're holding off on masks for right now. We do have enough masks, I believe, to get through a week or two of school. But if we are told we have to wear masks, which could be tricky, and I know, I'm seeing everywhere where it's recommended you wear masks, but and I don't know, I'm not a legal expert, but I've heard that sometimes families could say, like, well, I don't have to wear a mask. What are you going to do? I don't know what that's going to be tricky. That's going to be, we're going to rely on legal guidance if the CDC or county health is saying kids need to wear masks and they're telling us we can't. Like, those are things we need to be honest about and we need to talk about. And that's why we have these committees that are having these conversations. What if we have to wear masks? What will that look like? What if we have to take temperatures for every single kid when they enter? I've heard that too. Our nurses are like, oh my gosh, we have to take the temperatures for 500 elementary kids or 550 every day. Like, how are we possibly going to do that? Again, we're going to kind of wait and see. And as we get closer, determine what we're actually going to do. So again, I don't have, and again, this was kind of mentioned at the beginning, I don't have all the answers at this point. They are on our radar. But right now, we're kind of doing a sit and wait approach on some of these these safety things. Because again, 2 months is a huge amount of time. I know it's going to fly by, but in the world of changing news every day, there's just so much that could happen. It doesn't make sense for us to buy tens, if not hundreds of thousands of masks right now when we don't know what August will look like. Thanks for the recap. Thanks for your information. Okay, is there any other questions? I'm more than willing to help out. If I didn't answer your questions well enough, just hop back on. You can ask me. For our committees that are meeting on Wednesday, I will make sure they get these questions because these are outstanding things to be asking. So I really appreciate it. So again, if you have any questions, I'll give you a few more minutes. 34 comments. Thank you so much for your comments there. If you have anything else, again, I'm guessing I probably covered it earlier. The at-risk question. Resources required by the at-risk kids with different models in mind. So, like I mentioned earlier, and I know some of you are hopping in later, we have a committee on our Return to Learn committee that is headed up by Chris Collins, who is our elementary assistant principal, and it's going to be assisted by Lori Bach, who is our instructional coach at the elementary level. Also in that group is going to be Shauna Smith, Ashley Rowie, and Heather Garrett. But those 5 individuals have been tasked with that exact question. The question is, how do you plan on meeting the resources required by at-risk kids with the different models in mind? So that is really, I'm glad that we have Chris
Lori and Shauna, all three who are special ed, I guess I would say experts in the district, will be trying to address those issues. That has been a huge question that's come up, is how do we ensure that, and I don't know, Shauna, if you're still on, or if Chris is on. I saw Shauna was on earlier. That's been probably, I got an email today about how we meet the needs of our ELL students and how difficult that is going to be, because they have a certain amount of time they need to be instructed by their teacher, some of that one-on-one and small group instruction. That right now, we don't have all the answers, but we do have people who are working on those answers for us. That will be part of the return, and I mentioned this way at the beginning, we have a huge document that, let me pull it up real quick here. The document has those 11 areas, and then for each, I'm going to move it here real quick. Hold on one second. For each of those areas then that I talked about earlier, we've got these areas. Each of the committees has to do this. They have to come up with each of the action steps so if I'm doing special needs and ELL, as a special ed teacher, ELL teacher, what are all the action steps I need to think of prior to August? What do I need to have in place in terms of IEPs? What do we need to do in terms of staff to make sure we're meeting the needs of the students? And then they've got to list the action step, the person responsible, the timeline. Then they're going to link the product or resources. So if there's any Google Doc that they have behind the scenes, they're going to link that in so it's transparent. And then your question asked, they have to address, how might this look different in virtual or hybrid learning? So with each action step, they have to come up with, okay, if we're virtual and we're completely away from school, how are we going to meet the needs of those special ed and ELL students? If it's hybrid and we've only got 10 students in a room at one time and the other 10 students come in the later part of the day, how do we meet the needs of those special needs and ELL students? So I don't have the answer right now. That is a committee that I feel really good about, that we've got, three of our, Ashley and Heather as well, but three of our key special ed people are going to be in that room figuring out those answers. So I don't know. I don't know if I can answer all these with exactly what the plan is for each of the steps, but that's what I know right now. Any other questions? I can definitely help you out. You're asking great questions. The recap. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Thank you. Nikki, Jennifer, Becky, Rochelle. Okay, I think I've got all of them here. If you got anything else, let me know. Okay, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. If that's it, I'm going to log off here. And like I said, if you missed the first part of it, it's going to save right to Facebook. You can go back and you can watch the first 10, 15 minutes, or you can watch whatever part of the of the video you missed, and hopefully catch you up. We can do another one of these in a couple weeks, or whenever. It doesn't matter. I don't mind doing it. I hope it helps. And again, keep your questions coming. If you have a question, throw it in there in the comments, even when you're done, because I will make sure that those committees who are working on the questions that you have are going to answer those questions for you. So we'll give them one last second. Looks like we're good. That was a lot of fun, and I thank you for your participation. I appreciate it. And okay, I'm going to head out here. Thank you so much. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon, and go Trojans.